not speak with her?
She is importunate, indeed distract. Her mood will needs be pitied.
What would she have?
She speaks much of her father, says she hears there's tricks i' the world, and hems and beats her heart, spurns enviously at straws, speaks things in doubt that carry but half sense. Her speech is nothing, yet the unshaped use of it doth move the hearers to collection. They aim at it and botch the words up fit to their own thoughts, which, as her winks and nods and gestures yield them, indeed would make one think there might be thought, though nothing sure, yet much unhappily.
'Twere good she was spoken with, for she may strew dangerous conjectures in ill-breeding minds.
Let her come in. To my sick soul, as sin's true nature is, each toy seems prologue to some greater miss, so full of artless jealousy as guilt, it spills itself in fearing to be spilt.
Where is the beauteous majesty of Denmark?
How now, Ophelia?
How should I your true love know from another one? By his cockle, hat and staff, and his sandal shoon.
Alas, sweet lady, what imports this song?
Say you? Nay, pray you mark. He is dead and gone, lady, he is dead and gone. At his head a grass-green turf, at his heels a stone.
Oh, ho! Nay, but Ophelia...
Pray you, mark. White his shroud as the mountain snow.
Alas, look here, my lord.
Larded all with sweet flowers, which bewept to the grave did not go with true love showers.
How do you, pretty lady?
Well, God dild you. They say the owl was a baker's daughter. Lord, we know what we are, but know not what we may be. God be at your table.
Conceit upon her father.
Pray, let's have no words of this, but when they ask you what it means, say you this. Tomorrow is St. Valentine's Day, all in the morning betime, and I am made at your window to be your Valentine. Then up he rose and donned his clothes, and up the chamber door, letting the maid that outer maid never departed more.
Pretty Ophelia.
Indeed, law without an oath, I'll make an end on't. By Jis and by St. Charity, alack and fie for shame. Young men will do it if they come to it, by cock they are to blame. Quoth she, before you tumbled me, you promised me to wed. He answers, so would I have done, by yonder sun, and thou hadst not come to my bed.
How long hath she been thus?
I hope all will be well. We must be patient. But I cannot choose but weep to think they would lay him in the cold ground. My brother shall know of it, and so I thank you for your good counsel. Come, my coach. Good night, ladies, good night. Sweet ladies. Good night. Good night.
Follow her close. Give her good watch, I pray you.
My lord.
Oh, this is the poison of deep grief. It springs all from her father's death. And now, behold, oh, Gertrude, Gertrude, when sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in battalions. First her father slain, next your son gone, and he most violent author of his own just remove. The people muddied, thick and unwholesome in their thoughts and whispers for good Polonius' death. And we have done but greenly in hugger-mugger to inter him. Poor Ophelia divided from herself and her fair judgment, without the which we are pictures or mere beasts. Last, and as much containing as all these, her brother is in secret come from France, feeds on his wonder, keeps himself in clouds, and wants not buzzers to infect his ear with pestilent speeches of his father's death, wherein necessity of matter beggared, will nothing stick our person to arraign in ear and ear. Oh, my dear Gertrude, this like to a murdering piece, in many places gives me superfluous death.
Alack, what noise is this?
Attend, where are my Switzers? Let them guard the door. What is the matter?
Save yourself, my lord. The ocean, overpeering of his list, eats not the flats with more impiteous haste than young Laertes, in a riotous head, overbears your officers. The rabble call him lord, and, as the world were now but to begin, antiquity forgot, custom not known, the ratifiers and props of every word, they cry, choose we, Laertes shall be king. Caps, hands, and tongues applaud it to the clouds, Laertes shall be king, Laertes king.
How cheerfully on the false trail they cry. Oh, this is counter, you false Danish dog!
Doors are broke.
Where is this king? Sir, stand you all without. I pray you, give me leave. We will! I thank you. Keep the door. O thou vile king, give me my father.
Calmly, good Laertes.
That drop of blood that's calm proclaims me bastard. Cries cuckold to my father, brands the harlot even here, between the chaste unsmirched brows of my true mother.
What is the cause, Laertes, that thy rebellion looks so giant-like? Let him go, Gertrude. Do not fear our person. There's such divinity doth hedge a king that treason can but peep to what it would, acts little of his will. Tell me, Laertes, why thou art thus incensed. Let him go, Gertrude. Speak, man.
Where is my father?
Dead.
But not by him.
Let him demand his fill.
How came he dead? I'll not be juggled with. To hell allegiance, vows to the blackest devil, conscience and grace to the profoundest pit. I dare damnation. To this point I stand, that both the worlds I give to negligence. Let come what comes, only I'll be revenged. Most truly for my father.
Who shall stay you?
My will, not all the worlds, and for my means I'll husband them so well they shall go far with little.
Good Laertes, if you desire to know the certainty of your dear father, is't written your revenge that sweepstake you will draw both friend and foe, winner and loser?
None but his enemies?
Will you know them then?
To his good friends thus wide I'll ope my arms, and like the kind, a life-rendering pelican repast them with my blood.
Why, now you speak like a good child and a true gentleman. That I am guiltless of your father's death, and am most sensibly in grief for it, it shall as level to your judgment peer as day does to your eye.
How now? What noise is that? Oh, heat, dry up my brains. Tears 7 times salt burn out the sense and virtue of mine eye. By heaven, thy madness shall be paid by weight till our scale turn the beam. O rose of May, dear maid, kind sister, sweet Ophelia. Oh, heavens, is possible a young maid's wit should be as mortal as an old man's life? Nature is fine in love, and where 'tis fine, it sends some precious instance of itself after the thing it loves.
They bore him barefaced on the bier, hey nonny, nonny, hey nonny, and in his grave rained many a tear. Fare you well, my dove.
Hadst thou thy wits, and didst persuade revenge, it could not move thus.
You must sing a down, and you call him a downer. Oh, how the wheel becomes it. It is the false steward that stole his master's daughter.
This nothing's more than matter.
There's rosemary, that's for remembrance. Pray you, love, remember. And there is pansies, that's for thoughts.
A document in madness. Thoughts and remembrance fitted.
There's fennel for you, and columbines. There's rue for you, and here's some for me. We may call it herb of grace o' Sundays. Oh, you must wear your rue with a difference. There's a daisy. I would give you some violets, but they withered all when my father died. I say I made a good end. For bonny sweet Robin is all my joy.
Thought and affliction, passion, hell itself she turns to favour and to prettiness.
And will er not come again? And will er not come again? No, no, he is dead. Go to thy deathbed. He never will come again. His beard was as white as snow. All flaxen was his poll, he is gone, he is gone. And we cast away moan, God a mercy on his soul. And of all Christian souls, I pray God, God by you.
Do you see this, O God?
Laertes, I must commune with your grief, for you deny me right. Go but apart. Make choice of whom your wisest friends you will, and they shall hear and judge twixt you and me. If by direct or by collateral hand they find us touched, we will our kingdom give, our crown, our life, and all that we call ours to you in satisfaction. But if not, be you content to lend your patience to us, and we shall jointly labour with your soul to give it due content.
Let this be so. His means of death, his obscure funeral, no trophy, sword, nor hatchment o'er his bones, no noble rite, nor formal ostentation, cry to be heard, as 'twere from heaven to earth, that I must call it in question.
So you shall. And where the offence is, let the great axe fall. I pray you, go with me. Now must your conscience my acquittance seal, and you must put me in your heart for friend, sith you have heard him with a knowing ear that he which hath your noble father slain pursued my life.
It well appears. But tell me why you proceeded not against these feats, so crimeful and so capital in nature, as by your safety, wisdom, all things else you mainly were stirred up.
Oh, for two special reasons, which may to you perhaps seem much unsinewed, but yet to me they're strong. The queen, his mother, lives almost by his looks, and for myself, my virtue or my plague be either which. She is so conjunctive to my life and soul that, as the star moves not but in his sphere, I could not but by her. The other motive why to a public count I might not go is the great love the general gender bear him, who, dipping all his faults in their affection, would, like the spring that turneth wood to stone, convert his gyves to graces, so that my arrows, too slightly timbered for so loud a wind, would have reverted to my bow again, and not where I had aimed them.
And so have I, a noble father lost, a sister driven into desperate terms, whose worth, if praises may go back again, stood challenger on mount of all the age for her perfections. But my revenge will come.
Break not your sleeps for that. You must not think that we are made of stuff so flat and dull that we can let our beard be shook with danger and think it pastime. You shortly shall hear more. I loved your father, and we love ourselves, and that I hope will teach you to imagine. How now? What news?
Letters, my lord, from Hamlet. These to your majesty, this to the queen.
From Hamlet? Who brought them?
Sailors, my lord, they say. I saw them not. They were given me by Claudio. He received them of him that brought them.
Laertes, you shall hear them. Leave us. High and mighty, you shall know I am set naked on your kingdom. Tomorrow shall I beg leave to see your kingly eyes, when I shall, first asking your pardon thereunto, recount the occasion of my sudden and more strange return. Hamlet, what should this mean? Are all the rest come back? Or is it some abuse and no such thing?
Know you the hand?
Yeah, 'tis Hamlet's character. Naked. And in a postscript here he says, alone. Can you devise me?
I am lost in it, my lord. But let him come. It warms the very sickness in my heart that I shall live and tell him to his teeth. Thus didst thou.
If it be so, Laertes, as how should it be so, how otherwise? Will you be ruled by me?
Aye, my lord. So you will not o'errule me to a peace?
To thine own peace. If he be now returned, as checking at his voyage, and that he means no more to undertake it, I will work him to an exploit now ripe in my device, under the which he shall not choose but fall, and for his death no wind of blame shall breathe, but even his mother shall uncharge the practice and call it accident.
My lord, I will be ruled. The rather if you could devise it so that I might be the organ.
It falls right. You have been talked of since your travel much, and that in Hamlet's hearing, for a quality wherein they say you shine. Your summer part did not together pluck such envy from him as did that one, and that in my regard of the unworthiest siege.
What part is that, my lord?
A very riband in the cap of youth, yet needful too, for youth no less becomes the light and careless livery that it wears than settled age his sables and his weeds, importing health and graveness. 2 months since here was a gentleman of Normandy. Now I've seen myself and served against the French, and they can well on horseback, but this gallant had witchcraft in't. He grew unto his seat, and to such wondrous doing brought his horse, as had he been encorpsed and demi-natured with the brave beast. So far he topped my thought that I, in forgery of shapes and tricks, come short of what he did.
A Norman wast?
A Norman?
Upon my life, Lamord.
The very same.
I know him well. He is the brooch indeed and gem of all the nation.
He made confession of you, and gave you such a masterly report for art and exercise in your defence, and for your rapier most especial, that he cried out, 'Twould be a sight indeed if one could match you. The scrimmers of their nation, he swore, had neither motion guard nor eye if you opposed them. Sir, this report of his did Hamlet so envenom with his envy that he could nothing do but wish and beg your sudden coming or to play with you. Now, out of this...
What out of this, my lord?
Laertes, was your father dear to you, or are you like the painting of a sorrow, a face without a heart?
Why ask you this?
Not that I think you did not love your father, but that I know love is begun by time, and that I see in passages of proof time qualifies the spark and fire of it. There lives within the very flame of love a kind of wick or snuff that will abate it, and nothing is at a like goodness still, for goodness growing to a pleurisy dies in his own too much. That we would do we should do when we would, for this wood changes, and hath abatements and delays as many as there are tongues or hands or accidents. And then this should is like a spendthrift sigh that hurts by easing. But to the quick of the ulcer. Hamlet comes back. What would you undertake to show yourself your father's son indeed, more than in words?
To cut his throat in the church.
No place indeed should murder sanctuarize. Revenge should have no bounds. But, good Laertes, will you do this? Keep close within your chamber. Hamlet returned shall know you are come home. We'll put on those shall praise your excellence, and set a double varnish on the fame the Frenchman gave you, bring you in fine together, and wager on your heads. He, being remiss, most generous, and free from all contriving, will not peruse the foils, so that with ease, or with a little shuffling, you may choose a sword unbaited, and, in a pass of practice, requite him for your father.
I will do't. And for that purpose I'll anoint my sword. I bought an unction of a mountebank so mortal that but dip a knife in it where it draws blood, no cataplasm so rare, collected from all simples that have virtue under the moon, can save the thing from death that is but scratched withal. I'll touch my point with this contagion, that if I gall him slightly, it may be death.
Let's further think of this. Weigh what convenience both of time and means may fit us to our shape. If this should fail, and that our drift look through our bad performance, 'twere better not assayed. Therefore this project should have a back, or second, that might hold if this did blast in proof. Soft, let me see. We'll make a solemn wager on your cunnings. I have't. When in your motion you are hot and dry, as make your bouts more violent to that end, as that he calls for drink, I'll have preferred him a chalice for the nonce, whereon but sipping, if he by chance escape your venomed stuck, our purpose may hold there. But stay, what noise?
One woe doth tread upon another's heels, so fast they follow. Your sister's drowned, Laertes.
Drowned? Oh, where?
There is a willow grows askant the brook, that shows his hoar leaves in the glassy stream. Therewith fantastic garlands did she make, of crowflowers, nettles, daisies, and long purples, that liberal shepherds give a grosser name, but our cold maids do dead men's fingers call them. There on the pendant boughs her crownet weeds clambering to hang, an envious sliver broke, when down her weedy trophies and herself fell in the weeping brook. Her clothes spread wide, and mermaid-like awhile they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old lords, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and endued unto that element. But long it could not be, till that her garments, heavy with their drink, pulled the poor wretch from her melodious lay to muddy death.
Alas, then she is drowned?
Drowned, drowned.
Too much of water hast thou, poor Ophelia, and therefore I forbid my tears. But yet it is our trick. Nature her custom holds, let shame say what it will. When these are gone, the woman will be out. Adieu, my lord. I have a speech of fire that fain would blaze, but that this folly drowns it.
Let's follow, Gertrude. How much I had to do to calm his rage. Now fear I this will give it start again. Therefore let's follow.
Is she to be buried in Christian burial when she wilfully seeks her own salvation?
I tell thee she is. Therefore make her grave straight. The crowner hath sate on her and finds a Christian burial.
How can that be? Unless she drowned herself in her own defence.
Why dost found so?
It must be se offendendo. It cannot be else. But here lies the point. If I drown myself wittingly, it argues an act. And an act hath three branches. It is to act, to do, and to perform. Argal, she drowned herself wittingly.
Nay, but hear you, Goodman Delver.
Give me leave. Here lies the water. Good. Here stands the man. Good. If the man go to this water and drown himself, it is willy-nilly he goes. Mark you that. But if the water come to him and drown him, he drowns not himself. Argal, he that is not guilty of his own death shortens not his own life.
But is this law?
Aye, marry, is't. Crowner's quest law.
We have the truth on it.
Yeah.
If this had not been a gentlewoman, she should have been buried out of Christian burial.
Why there thou sayest. And the more pity that great folk should have countenance in this world to drown or hang themselves more than they're even Christian. Come, my spade. There is no ancient gentleman but gardeners, ditchers and gravemakers. They hold up Adam's profession.
Was he a gentleman?
It was the first that ever bore arms.
I had none.
What, art a heathen? How dost thou understand the scripture? The scripture says Adam digged. Could he dig without arms? I'll put another question to thee. If thou answerest me not to the purpose, confess thyself.
Go to!
What is he that builds stronger than either the mason, the shipwright, or the carpenter?
The gallows maker. For that frame outlives 1,000 tenants.
I like thy wit well, in good faith. The gallows does well. But how does it well? It does well to those that do ill. Now thou dost ill to say the gallows is built stronger than the church. Oh, gal, the gallows may do well to thee. To it again, come.
Who builds stronger than a mason? A shipwright? Or a carpenter?
Oh, tell me that, nun yoke.
Oh, marry now, I can tell.
To it.
Ass, I cannot tell.
Oh, cudgel thy brains no more about it, for your dull ass will not mend his pace with beating. And when you're asked this question next, say, a grave maker. The houses he makes last till doomsday. Go, get thee in and fetch me a stoop of liquor. In youth, when I did love, methought it was very sweet to contract all the time for a mind behove. For methought there was nothing a meet.
Has this fellow no feeling of his business that he sings at grave making?
Custom hath made it in him a property of easiness.
'Tis e'en so. The hand of little employment hath the daintier sense.
The aid with his stealing steps hath clawed me in his clutch and hath shipped me into the land as if I had never been such a...
That skull had a tongue in it and could sing once. How the knave jowls it to the ground, as if 'twere Cain's jawbone that did the first murder. This might be the pate of a politician, which this ass now o'erreaches, one that would circumvent God, might it not?
It might, my lord.
Or of a courtier, which could say, Good morrow, sweet lord, how dost thou, sweet lord? This might be my lord such-a-one that praised my lord such-a-one's horse when he meant to beg it, might it not?
Aye, my lord.
I mean so. And now, my lady Worms, chapless, and knocked about the mazzard with a sexton's spade. Here's a fine revolution, and we have a trick to see it. Did these bones cost no more the breeding but to play at lockets with them? Mine ache to think on't.
A pickaxe and a spade for and a shroudy sheet. Our pit of clay for to be made, for such a guest is meet.
Oh, there's another. Why, may not that be the skull of a lawyer? Where be his quiddities now, his quillities, his cases, his tenures, and his tricks? Why does he suffer this mad knave now to knock him about the sconce with a dirty shovel and will not tell him of his action of battery? This fellow might be in his time a great buyer of land, with his statutes, his recognizances, his fines, his double vouchers, his recoveries. Is this the fine of his fines, and the recovery of his recoveries, to have his fine pate full of fine dirt? Will his vouchers vouch him no more of his purchases, and double ones too, than the length and breadth of a pair of indentures? The very conveyances of his lands will scarcely lie in this box, and must the inheritor himself have no more? Huh?
Not a jot more, my lord.
Is not parchment made of sheepskins?
Aye, my lord, and of calfskins too.
They are sheep and calves which seek out assurance in that. I will speak to this fellow. Whose grave's this, sirrah?
Mine, sir. Our pit of clay for to be made, for such a guest is meet.
I think it be thine indeed, for thou liest in't.
You lie out on't, sir, and therefore 'tis not yours. For my part, I do not lie in't, yet it is mine.
Thou dost lie in't, to be in't, and say it is thine. 'Tis for the dead, not for the quick, therefore thou liest.
'Tis a quick lie, sir, 'twill away again from me to you.
What man dost thou dig it for?
For no man, sir.
What woman, then?
For none, neither.
Who is to be buried in't?
One that was a woman, sir, but rest her soul, she's dead.
How absolute the knave is. We must speak by the card, or equivocation will undo us. By the Lord Horatio, this 3 years I have taken note of it, the age has grown so picked that the toe of the peasant comes so near the heel of the courtier, he galls his kine. How long hast thou been a grave maker?
Of all the days in the year, I came to't that day that our last King Hamlet overcame Fortinbras.
How long is that since?
Cannot you tell that? Every fool can tell that. It was the very day that young Hamlet was born. He that is mad and sent into England.
Ay, marry, why was he sent into England?
Why? Because he was mad. He shall recover his wits there, or if I do not, 'tis no great matter there.
Why?
Well, to not be seen in him there, the men are as mad as he.
How came he mad?
Very strangely, they say.
How strangely?
Faith, even with losing his wits.
Upon what ground?
Why, here, in Denmark. I've been sexton here, man and boy, 30 years.
How long will a man lie the earth ere he rot?
Faith, if I be not rotten before I die, as we have many pocky courses nowadays that will scarce hold a laying in, I will last you some 8 year or 9 year. A tanner will last you 9 year.
Why he more than another?
Why, sir, his hide is so tanned with his trade that I will keep out water a great while, and your water is a sore decayer of your whoreson dead body. Here's a skull now hath lain you i' the earth 23 years.
Whose was it?
A whoreson mad fellas it was. Who do you think he was?
Nay, I know not.
A pestilence on him for a mad rogue. I poured a flagon of Rhenish on me head once. This same skull, sir, was Yorick's skull, the king's jester.
This?
Eaten that.
Let me see. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio. A fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He had borne me on his back 1,000 times. Now, how abhorred in my imagination it is. My gorge rises at it. Here hung those lips that I have kissed I know not how oft. Where be your gibes now? Your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment that were wont to set the table on a roar? Not one now to mock your own grinning. Quite chap fallen. Now get you to my lady's chamber and tell her, let her paint an inch thick, to this favour she must come. Make her laugh at that. Prithee, Horatio, tell me one thing.
What's that, my lord?
Dost thou think Alexander looked to this fashion of the earth?
E'en so.
And smelt so?
E'en so, my lord.
To what base uses we may return, Horatio. Why may not imagination trace the noble dust of Alexander till it find it stopping a bunghole?
'Twere to consider too curiously to consider so.
No, faith, not a jot. But to follow him thither with modesty enough and likelihood to lead it, as thus. Alexander died. Alexander was buried. Alexander returneth to dust. The dust is earth. Of earth we make loam. And why of that loam whereto he was converted, might they not stop a beer barrel? Imperious Caesar, dead and turned to clay, might stop a hole to keep the wind away. Oh, that earth which kept the world in awe should patch a wall to expel the winter's flaw. But soft a while. Here comes the king, the queen, the courtiers. Who is this they follow? And with such maimed rites? This doth betoken the course they follow did with desperate hand fordo it own life. It was of some estate. Couch we a while and mark.
What ceremony else?
That is Laertes, a very noble youth. Mark.
What ceremony else?
Her obsequies have been as far enlarged as we have warranty. Her death was doubtful, and but that great command o'ersways the order, she should in ground unsanctified have lodged till the last trumpet. For charitable prayers, shards, flints, and pebbles should be thrown on her. Yet here she is allowed her virgin krantz, her maiden struments, and the bringing home of bell and burial.
Must there no more be done?
No more be done. We should profane the service of the dead to sing a requiem, and such rest to her as to peace-parted souls.
Lay her in the earth, and from her fair and unpolluted flesh may violets spring. I tell thee, churlish priest, a ministering angel shall my sister be when thou liest howling.
What the fair Ophelia?
Sweets to the sweet. Farewell. I hope thou shouldst have been my Hamlet's wife. I thought thy bride bed to have decked, sweet maid, and not have strewed thy grave.
O treble woe, full 10 times treble on that cursed head, whose wicked deed thy most ingenious sense deprived thee of. Hold off the earth a while, till I have caught her once more in mine arms. Now pile your dust upon the quick hand dead, till of this flat a mountain you have made, to o'ertop old Pelion or the skyish head of blue Olympus.
What is he whose grief bears such an emphasis? Whose phrase of sorrow conjures the wandering stars and makes them stand like wonder-wounded hearers? This is I, Hamlet the Dane.
The devil take thy soul!
Thou prayest not well. I prithee take thy fingers from my throat, for though I am not splenitive and rash, yet have I in me something dangerous, which let thy wisdom fear. Hold off thy hand.
Pluck them asunder!
Hamlet! Hamlet!
Gentlemen! Good, my lord, be quiet!
Why, I will fight with him upon this theme until my eyelids will no longer wag.
Oh, my son, what's he?
I loved Ophelia! 40,000 brothers could not with all their quantity of love make up my sum. What wilt thou do for her?
Oh, he is mad, Laertes.
The love of God forbear him!
Soon show me what thou'lt do. Would weep, would fight, would fast, would tear thyself, would drink a Beisel, eat a crocodile. I'll do it. Dost thou come here to whine, to outface me with leaping in her grave? Be buried quick with her, and so will I. And if thou prate of mountains, let them throw millions of acres on us, till our ground, singeing his pate against the burning zone, make Ossa like a wart. Nay, and thou'lt mouth, I'll rant as well as thou.
This is mere madness. And thus awhile the fit will work on him. Anon, as patient as the female dove when that her golden couplets are disclosed, his silence will sit drooping.
You, sir, what is the reason that you use me thus? I loved you ever. But it is no matter. Let Hercules himself do what he may. The cat will mew, and dog will have his day.
I pray thee, good Horatio, wait upon him. Laertes, strengthen your patience in our last night's speech. We'll put the matter to the present push. Good Gertrude, set some watch over your son. This grave shall have a living monument. An hour of quiet shortly shall we see. Till then, in patience our proceeding be.
So much for this, sir. Now shall you see the other? You do remember all the circumstance?
Remember it, my lord?
Sir, in my heart there was a kind of fighting that would not let me sleep. Methought I lay worse than the mutins in the bilboes. Rashly, and praised be rashness for it. Let us know our indiscretion sometimes serves us well when our deep plots do pall. And that should learn us there's a divinity that shapes our ends, rough hew them how we will.
That is most certain.
Up from my cabin, my sea gown scarfed about me, in the dark groped I to find out them. Had my desire, fingered their packet, and in fine withdrew to mine own room again, making so bold, my fears forgetting manners, to unseal their grand commission, where I found, Horatio, royal knavery, an exact command larded with many several sorts of reasons importing Denmark's health and England's too, with such bugs and goblins in my life, that on the supervise no leisure bated, no not to say the grinding of the axe, my head should be struck off.
Is't possible?
Here's the commission. Read it at more leisure. But wilt thou hear me how I did proceed?
I beseech you.
Being thus benetted round with villainies, or I could make a prologue to my brains, they had begun the play. I sat me down, devised a new commission, wrote it fair. I once did hold it as our statists do a baseness to write fair, and laboured much how to forget that learning, but, sir, now it did me yeoman service. Wilt thou know the effect of what I wrote?
Aye, good my lord.
An earnest conjuration from the king, as England was his faithful tributary, as love between them like the palm might flourish, as peace should still her wheaten garland wear, and stand a comma tween their amities, and many such like ases of great charge, that on the view and knowing of these contents, without debatement further, more or less, he should the bearers put to sudden death, not shriving time allowed.
How was this sealed?
Why, even in that was heaven ordinant. I had my father's signet in my purse, which was the model of that Danish seal. Folded the writ up in the form of the other, subscribed it, gave it the impression, placed it safely, the changeling never known. Now the next day was our sea fight, and what to this was sequent thou knowest already.
So, Guildenstern and Rosencrantz go to't.
Why, man, they did make love to this employment. They are not near my conscience. Their defeat does by their own insinuation grow. 'Tis dangerous when the baser nature comes between the pass and fell insensate points of mighty opposites.
Why, what a king is this?
Does it not, think thee, stand me now upon, he that hath killed my king, and whored my mother, popped in between the election and my hopes, thrown out his angle for my proper life, and with such cozenage, is not perfect conscience to quit him with this arm? And is it not to be damned to let this canker of our nature come in further evil?
It must be shortly known to him from England what is the issue of the business there.
It will be short. The interim is mine. And a man's life's no more than to say one. But I am very sorry, good Horatio, that to Laertes I forgot myself, for by the image of my cause I see the portraiture of his. I'll court his favours. But sure the bravery of his grief did put me into a towering passion.
Peace. Who comes here?
Your lordship is right welcome back to Denmark.
I humbly thank you, sir. Dost know this waterfly?
No, my good lord.
Thy state is the more gracious, for 'tis a vice to know him. He hath much land and fertile. Let a beast be lord of beasts, and his crib shall stand at the king's mess. 'Tis a chuff, but as I say, spacious in the possession of dirt.
Sweet lord, if your lordship were at leisure, I should impart a thing to you from his majesty.
I will receive it, sir, with all diligence of spirit. Put your bonnet to its right use, 'tis for the head.
I thank your lordship. It is very hot.
No, believe me, 'tis very cold. The wind is northerly.
It is indifferent cold, my lord, indeed.
But yet methinks it is very sultry and hot for my complexion.
Exceedingly, my lord. It is very sultry as to a... I cannot tell how.
But, my lord, his majesty bade me signify to you that he has laid a great wager on your head. Sir, this is the matter.
I beseech you, remember.
Nay, good my lord, for mine ease, in good faith. Sir, here is newly come to court Laertes. Believe me, an absolute gentleman, full of most excellent differences, of very soft society and great showing. Indeed, to speak feelingly of him, he is the card or calendar of gentry, for you shall find in him the continent of what part a gentleman would see.
Sir, his definement suffers no perdition in you, though I know to divide him inventorially would dozy the arithmetic of memory, and yet but you're neither in respect of his quick sale, but in the verity of extolment I take him to be a soul of great article, and his infusion of such dearth and rareness as, to make true diction of him, his semblable is his mirror, and who else would trace him his umbrage, nothing more.
Your lordship speaks most infallibly of him.
The concernancy, sir, why do we wrap the gentleman in our more raw breath?
Sir? Is it not possible to understand in another tongue? You'll do it, sir, really?
What imports the nomination of this gentleman?
Of Laertes?
His purse is empty already, all's golden words are spent.
Of him, sir?
I know you are not ignorant.
I would you did, sir. Yet in faith, if you did, it would not much approve me. Well, sir?
You are not ignorant of what excellence Laertes is.
I dare not confess that, lest I should compare with him in excellence. But to know a man well were to know himself.
I mean, sir, for his weapon. But in the imputation laid on him by them in his mead, he's unfellowed.
What's his weapon?
Rapier and dagger.
That's two of his weapons, but well.
The king, sir, hath wagered with him 6 Barbary horses, against the which he has impawned, as I take it, 6 French rapiers and poniards, with their assigns as girdle, hangers, and so. 3 of the carriages, in faith, are very dear to fancy, very responsive to the hilts, most delicate carriages, and of very liberal conceit.
And what call you the carriages?
I knew you must be edified by the margent ere you had done.
The carriages, sir, are the hangers.
Ah, the phrase would be more germane to the matter if we could carry a cannon by our sides. I would it might be hangers till then. But on, 6 Barbary horses against 6 French swords, their assigns, and 3 liberal conceited carriages. That's the French bet against the Danish. Why is this all impawned, as you call it?
The king, sir, hath laid, sir, that in a dozen passes between yourself and him he shall not exceed you 3 hits. He hath laid on 12 for 9, and it would come to immediate trial if your lordship would vouchsafe the answer.
How if I answer no?
I mean, my lord, the opposition of your person in trial.
Sir, I will walk here in the hall. If it please his majesty, it is the breathing time of day with me. Let the foils be brought. The gentleman willing and the king hold his purpose, I will win for him an I can. If not, I will gain nothing but my shame and the odd hits.
Shall I redeliver you e'en so?
To this effect, sir, after what flourish your nature will.
I commend my duty to your lordship.
Yours. He does well to commend it himself. There are no tongues else for his turn.
This lapwing runs away with the shell on his head.
I did comply so with his dug before he sucked it. Thus has he, and many more of the same bevy that I know the drossy age dotes on, only got the tune of the time, and out of an habit of encounter a kind of yeasty collection which carries them through and through the most fanned and winnowed opinions, and do but blow them to their trial, the bubbles are out.
My lord, His Majesty commended him to you by young Osric, who brings back to him that you attend him in the hall. He sends to know if your pleasure holds to play with Laertes, or that you will take longer time.
I am constant to my purposes. They follow the king's pleasure. If his fitness speaks, mine is ready, now or whensoever, provided I be so able as now.
The king and queen and all are coming down.
In happy time.
The queen desires you to use some gentle entertainment to Laertes before you fall to play.
She well instructs me.
You will lose this wager, my lord.
I do not think so. Since he went into France, I have been in continual practice. I shall win at the odds. But thou wouldst not think how ill all's here about my heart. But it is no matter.
Nay, good my lord.
It is but foolery, but it is such a kind of gain-giving as would perhaps trouble a woman.
If your mind dislike anything, obey it. I will forestall their repair hither and say you are not fit.
Not a whit, we defy augury. There is special providence in the fall of a sparrow. If it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all, since no man of aught he leaves knows what is to leave betimes. Let be.
Come, Hamlet, come and take this hand from me.
Laertes, give me your pardon, sir. I have done you wrong. But pardon it, as you are a gentleman. This presence knows, and you must needs have heard, how I am punished with a sore distraction. What I have done, that might your nature, honour, and exception roughly awake, I here proclaim was madness. Was it Hamlet wrong, Laertes? Never Hamlet. If Hamlet from himself be ta'en away, and when he's not himself does wrong, Laertes, then Hamlet does it not, Hamlet denies it. Who does it then? His madness. If it be so, Hamlet is of the faction that is wronged. His madness is poor Hamlet's enemy. Sir, in this audience let my disclaiming from a purposed evil free me so far in your most generous thoughts that I have shot my arrow o'er the house and hurt my brother.
I am satisfied in nature, whose motive in this case should stir me most to my revenge. But in my terms of honour, I stand aloof, and will no reconcilement till by some elder masters of known honour I have a voice and precedent of peace to keep my name ungored. But till that time, I do receive your offered love like love, and will not wrong it.
I embrace it freely, and will this brother's wager frankly play. Give us the foils, come on.
Come, one for me.
I'll be your foil, Laertes. In mine ignorance your skill shall, like a star in the darkest night, stick fiery off indeed.
You mock me, sir.
No, by this hand.
Give them the foils, young Osric. Cousin Hamlet, you know the wager.
Very well, my lord. Your grace has laid the odds of the weaker side.
I do not fear it. I have seen you both. But since he is bettered, we have therefore odds.
This is too heavy. Let me see another.
This likes me well. These foils have all a length.
Aye, my good lord.
Set me the stoups of wine upon that table. If Hamlet give the first or second hit, or quit in answer of the third exchange, let all the battlements their ordnance fire. The king shall drink to Hamlet's better breath, and in the cup an union shall he throw, richer than that which 4 successive kings in Denmark's crown have worn. Give me the cups, and let the kettle to the trumpet speak, the trumpet to the cannoneer without, the cannons to the heavens, the heaven to earth. Now the king drinks to Hamlet. Come, begin. And you, the judges, bear a wary eye.
Come on, sir.
Come, my lord.
One! No! Judgment! A hit, a very palpable hit.
Well, again.
Stay, give me drink. Hamlet, this pearl is thine. Here's to thy health. Give him the cup.
I'll play this bout first. Set it by a while. Come. Another hit! What say you?
A touch? A touch, I do confess it.
Our son shall win.
He's fat and scant of breath. Here, Hamlet, take my napkin, rub thy brows. The queen carouses to thy fortune, Hamlet.
Good madam.
Gertrude, do not drink.
I will, my lord. I pray you pardon me.
It is the poison cup. It is too late.
I dare not drink yet, madam, by and by.
Come, let me wipe thy face.
My lord, I'll hit him now.
I do not think.
And yet it is almost against my conscience.
Come for the third, Laertes. You but dally. I pray you pass with your best violence. I am afraid you make a wanton of me.
Say you so? Come on!
Nothing neither way.
Have at you now!
Come again.
Look to the queen there, ho!
They bleed on both sides. How is it, my lord?
How is Laertes? Why, as a woodcock to mine own springe, Osric, I am justly killed with mine own treachery.
What is the queen?
She soons to see them bleed.
No. The drink. Oh, my dear Hamlet. The drink. The drink. I am poisoned.
Villainy. Oh, let the door be locked! Treachery, seek it out!
It is here, Hamlet. Hamlet, thou art slain. No medicine in the world can do thee good. In thee there is not half an hour's life. The treacherous instrument is in thy hand, unbaited and envenomed. The foul practice hath turned itself on me. Lo, here I lie, never to rise again. Thy mother's poisoned. I can no more. The king's to blame.
Point envenomed too. Then venom to thy work.
Oh, yet defend me, friends. I am but hurt.
Thou incestuous, murderous, damned Dane! Drink off this potion! Is thy union here? Follow my mother!
He is justly served. It is a poison tempered by himself. Exchange forgiveness with me, noble Hamlet. Mine and my father's death come not upon thee, nor thine on me.
Heaven make thee free of it. I follow thee. I am dead, Horatio. Wretched queen, adieu. You that look pale and tremble at this chance, that are but mutes or audience to this act, had I but time. As this fell Sergeant Death is strict in his arrest, oh, I could tell you. But let it be. Horatio, I am dead. Thou livest. Report me and my cause arise to the unsatisfied.
Never believe it. I am more an antique Roman than a Dane. Is yet some liquor left?
As the other man, give me the cup. Let go. By heaven, I'll hat. Oh God, Horatio, what a wounded name. Things standing thus unknown shall live behind me. If thou didst ever hold me in thy heart, absent thee from felicity awhile, and in this harsh world draw thy breath in pain to tell my story. What warlike noise is this?
Young Fortinbras, with conquest come from Poland, to the ambassadors of England gives this warlike volley.
I die, Horatio. The potent poison quite outgrows my spirit. I cannot live to hear the news from England, but I do prophesy the election lights on Fortinbras. He has my dying voice. So tell him, with the occurrence more and less, which have solicited, the rest is silence.
Now cracks a noble heart. Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. Why does the drum come hither?
Where is this sight?
What is it you would see? If aught of woe or wonder, cease your search.
This quarry cries on havoc. Oh, proud death, what feast is toward in thine eternal cell, that thou so many princes at a shot so bloodily hast struck?
The sight is dismal, and our affairs from England come too late. The ears are senseless that should give us hearing, to tell him his commandment is fulfilled, that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Where should we have our thanks?
Not from his mouth, had it the ability of life to thank you. He never gave commandment for their death. But since so jump upon this bloody question, you from the Polack wars and you from England are here arrived, give order that these bodies high on a stage be placed to the view. And let me speak to the yet unknowing world how these things came about. So shall you hear of carnal, bloody and unnatural acts, of accidental judgments, casual slaughters, of deaths put on by cunning and forced cause, and in this upshot, purposes mistook, fallen on the inventors' heads. All this can I truly deliver.
Let us haste to hear it, and call the noblest to the audience. For me, with sorrow I embrace my fortune. I have some rights of memory in this kingdom, which now to claim my vantage doth invite me.
Of that I shall have also cause to speak, and from his mouth whose voice will draw on more. But let this same be presently performed, even while men's minds are wild, lest more mischance on plots and errors happen.
Let 4 captains bear Hamlet like a soldier to the stage, for he was likely, had he been put on, to have proved most royal. And for his passage, the soldiers' music and the rites of war speak loudly for him. Take up the bodies. Such a sight as this becomes the field, but here shows much amiss. Go, bid the soldiers shoot.
In Hamlet by William Shakespeare, Hamlet was played by Simon Russell Beale. Claudius, Bob Peck. Gertrude, Jane Lapotaire. Polonius, Norman Rodway. And Ophelia, Imogen Stubbs. Alan Cox played Horatio. Paul Jesson, the ghost and gravedigger. Damian Lewis, Laertes. Clifford Rose, the player king. John McAndrew, Rosencrantz. And Clarence Smith, Guildenstern. Fortinbras was Chuxibtane, Marcellus and Osric, Nicholas Rowe, Bernardo, Alan Westaway, Francisco, Alex McSweeney, the Prologue and Lucianus, Nicholas Murchie, Voltimand and the Second Gravedigger, Nick Monu, Cornelius and Ronaldo, Alex Boyd Williams, and the player queen, Stephen O'Neill. Other parts were played by members of the cast. The musicians were Susanna Stanzalite and Fiona McCapra on violins, Tim Grant and Helen Kaminga, violas, Adrian Bradbury and Rachel Van der Tang, cello, Lucy Hare, double bass, Barbara Snow, trumpet, and Phil Hopkins, drums. The music was composed and conducted by Dominique Legendre. Hamlet was directed by Clive Brill.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit and convoy as assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet and the trifling of his favour, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the perfume and suppliance of a minute, no more.
No more but so.
Think it no more. For nature crescent does not grow alone in thews and bulk, but as this temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor quartel doth besmirch the virtue of his will, but you must fear. His greatness weighed, his will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not as unvalued persons do carve for himself, for on his choice depends the safety and health of this whole state, and therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. Then if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it as he in his particular act and place may give his saying deed, which is no further than the main voice of Denmark goes withal. Then weigh what loss your honour may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Oh, fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, and keep you in the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariest maid is prodigal enough if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes. The canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before their buttons be disclosed, and in the morn and liquid dew of youth contagious blossoms are most imminent. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near.
I shall the effect of this good lesson keep as watchman to my heart. But good my brother, do not as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst like a puffed and reckless libertine, himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and recks not his own reed.
Oh, fear me not. I stay too long. But here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave.
Yet here, Laertes, aboard, for shame! The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for. There my blessing with thee. And these few precepts in thy memory, look thou character. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. Those friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them unto thy soul with hoops of steel. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new-hatched, unfledged courage. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, Be't that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy, for the apparel oft proclaims the man, and they in France of the best rank and station are of a most select and generous chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee.
Most humbly do I take my leave, my lord.
Time invites you. Go, your servants tend.
Farewell, Ophelia. And remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
What is Ophelia he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Marry, well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. If it be so, as so it is put on me, and that in way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behoves my daughter and your honour. What is between you? Give me up the truth.
He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me.
Affection? Pooh! You speak like a green girl, unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Mary, I will teach you. Think yourself a baby, that you've ta'en these tenders for true pay, which are not sterling. Tender yourself more dearly. Or not to crack the wind of the poor phrase, running it thus, you'll tender me a fool.
My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honourable fashion.
Aye, fashion you may call it. Go to.
And hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, with almost all the holy vows of heaven.
Aye, springes to catch woodcocks. I do know, when the blood burns, how prodigal the soul lends the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise as it is a making, you must not take for fire. From this time be something scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. For Lord Hamlet believes so much in him that he is young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of that dye which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bawds, the better to beguile. This is for all. I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth, have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you. Come your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
The air bites shrewdly. It is very cold.
It is a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
I think it lacks of 12.
No, it is struck.
Indeed? I heard it not. It then draws near the season wherein the spirit held his wont to walk. What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight and takes his rouse, keeps wassail, and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge.
Is it a custom?
Aye, marriest. But to my mind, though I am native here and to the manner born, it is a custom more honoured in the breach than the observance. This heavy-headed revel east and west makes us traduced and taxed of other nations.
They clep us drunkards, and with swinish phrase soil our edition. And indeed it takes from our achievements, though performed at height, the pith and marrow of our attribute. So oft it chances in particular men, that for some vicious mole of nature in them, as in their birth, wherein they are not guilty, since nature cannot choose his origin, by the o'ergrowth of some complexion, oft breaking down the pales and forts of reason, or by some habit that too much o'erleavens the form of plausive manners, that these men carrying, I say, the stamp of one defect, being nature's livery or fortune's star, their virtues else, be they as pure as grace, as infinite as man may undergo, shall in the general censure take corruption from that particular fault. The dram of evil doth all the noble substance often doubt to his own scandal.
Look, my lord, it comes!
Angels and ministers of grace, defend us. Be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned, bring with the airs from heaven or blast from hell, be thy intents wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, King, Father, Royal Dane. Oh, answer me! Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements, why the sepulchre wherein we saw thee quietly interred hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean, that thou, dead corse, again in complete steel, revisits thus the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous, and we fools of nature so horridly to shake our disposition with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls? Say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do?
It beckons you to go away with it, as if it's some impartment to desire to you alone.
Look with what courteous action it waves you to a more removed ground, but do not go with it.
No, by no means.
It will not speak. Then will I follow it.
Do not, my lord.
Why, what should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee. And for my soul, what can it do to that, being a thing immortal as itself? It waves me forth again. I'll follow it.
What if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord, or to the dreadful summit of the cliff that beetles o'er his base into the sea, and there assumes some other horrible form, which might deprive your sovereignty of reason and draw you into madness? Think of it! The very place puts toys of desperation without more motive into every brain that looks so many fathoms to the sea and hears it roar beneath.
It waves me still. Go on, I'll follow thee.
You shall not go, my lord.
Hold off your hands.
Be ruled, you shall not go.
My fate cries out and makes each petty arter in this body as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. Still am I called. Unhand me, gentlemen. By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I say away. Go on. I'll follow thee.
He waxes desperate with imagination.
Let's follow. 'Tis not fit thus to obey him.
Have after. To what issue will this come?
Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Heaven will direct it.
Nay, let's follow him.